next one?
Well, as far as the scrimmage goes, number one, I thought that our effort and energy and our ability to compete was good. I like that. Thought we tackled well in space. I really liked the way we tackled well in the perimeter. And for the most part, I thought we were solid in what we needed to do. There's always things you got to work to clean up. I think the biggest thing is you know, you're going to have certain plays that are here, and then you've got the plays you need to improve upon are here, and that's where we need to eliminate those bottom plays. And we got to work to continue to pay attention to detail, to understand our fits, to understand where our help is and those things, to get the bottom plays up to here to be a more consistent team. So really that's the focus right now, is continue to develop that consistency. Got to always play with effort and energy. There's no substitute for that. And you know, we're in the grind right now. The next 5 days are very critical to our development, and it's going to be important that we have a certain focus and attitude every day to get better, because we've obviously got some challenges ahead of us.
At your outside linebackers, would it be fair to say that, I guess, like top three guys would be Sweat, Green, and Spencer, and do you kind of see those guys having pretty much significant amount of reps and equal amount of reps?
Yeah, definitely. I think that those guys have done a good job, and I would say those are our top three. You know, we can find ways to play two of those guys at one time, if not all three guys, based upon situation, packages, and those kind of things. So we'll continue to develop those guys and mix and match and move guys around, because at the end of the day, defense is about winning one-on-one matchups and finding ways to get our players who can win those isolated on maybe, you know, some mismatches from that standpoint. So we'll continue to do that, but those guys are certainly in our package and will be the, you know, they're the top three guys right now at that position, and we'll try to find ways to get maybe two or three of them on the field.
Sweat could play defensive end too.
Sweat
so would
could
that
play
be a way that all three could
Correct.
play?
I mean, we could have a package where we play with two true outside backers and they both play. We could play with a nickel package where two of them, or we could play the nickel package with all three. That just kind of depends upon the situation, who we're playing, and the matchups. But certainly, we're going to work to play those guys.
Is that kind of the same scenario when you look at your safeties with McLaurin and Brandon and Abram and JT?
Yeah, I think that, you know, what you try to do is develop depth, because as the game goes along, you got to rotate guys and you got to keep guys fresh, because if you want to win the kind of games we want to win, you got to be able to be fresh in the fourth quarter and finish people off. So you've got to develop depth, and you have to do cross-train guys. So the guys in the back end obviously have got to be able to cross-train to play multiple spots, to allow us to give guys breathers. And if a guy goes down, it's, you know, it's the next best guy up, not necessarily a guy that's on the depth chart. So I think it's important that you always work to cross-train guys to be able to get your best athletes on the field.
What's Brian Cole's role right now?
Brian's doing a really good job for us. He's a guy that can make plays on the ball. He's athletic. He obviously showed up in the spring game of being that kind of guy, and he's continued to develop and play for us.
Obviously, coach them up and give them all the mental and physical stuff they need. Mm-hmm. But a guy like Willie Gay, how much is he able to learn and grasp from Leo, and how much has Leo helped him with Willie being behind him?
Well, I think number one is he can learn from him by watching him. So, you know, there's only so many reps you can give a guy. So it's important that guys understand that even though you're not in the rep practice-wise, you're mentally getting the rep. And you know the call, and you go through the movements mentally yourself and watch the guy in front of you. And, you know, with Leo being here, you know, and been through it in the spring and doing the things we had in the winter, he's obviously got a little more grasp of what we're doing. So I think it's important that not only Willie, but other guys at that position can watch a guy in front of them to see it done right, and that gives you the mental rep of what you need. Willie's certainly done a good job for us, and we'll continue to work and develop him and, you know, let him compete.
That's obviously a new role for Leo, too. He was going last year learning from older guys. How has he handled being able to teach younger guys?
Yeah, well, you know, Leo is a very prideful guy in what he's in his performance. He's a guy that's passionate about the game, and he wants to do well. He's a guy that is physical. He likes that. He likes being in that setting. He likes to be that kind of guy. And he right now he's embraced it and has done a good job of helping the guys that play behind him develop their skill set.
Coach Miller was talking last night about a maximum trying to get 30 to 40 snaps on defensive guys. Do you feel you have the numbers to be able to do that this year?
I think that's we'll just kind of go as we go. You know what I'm saying, and see how it goes. I think it's important that you work to get as many fresh guys as you can to allow you to stay fresh in the fourth quarter. and we'll continue to work that, and we'll do that. We just got to see how it rolls throughout the next couple weeks and see what our depth is.
What do you want to accomplish before y'all get back out there and scrimmage again next week?
Well, I think that, we've got, first of all, we've got some base stuff in now. And when you look, when you look at some of the teams in our league, on our side of the ball, there'll be some base plays. I mean, there's only 2 wide receivers in the game. And we've had that in, but now we're kind of doing it in practice and doing some things with that. So I think we've got to develop that package, okay? And then I think that we've got to continue to work to understand the situations. There's a lot of situational things that come up, 2-minute red zone, balls backed up, 3rd down, and understanding those different situations and the way we're going to call the game, the way we're going to play it, and understand what the offense is going to do to you as well. So I think it's just understanding our stuff, continuing to improve our technique fundamentals. You got to always play with effort and energy and develop that. But just becoming an expert at your position and your craft, and communicate.
You have Adams and Rivers, I guess, at defensive end. What's the difference between the 2 players, in your opinion, and how have they both looked recently?
Both of those guys have worked hard for us. They're similar as far as they got twitch. I think they're more similar than they are apart. So they kind of allow you to have maybe 2 guys that can play the one position. And that's kind of how we've approached it with those 2 guys, to allow those guys to stay fresh. So, we'll work to continue to develop those guys and let them compete. I think there's more similarities than there are differences in those 2 guys, because they both got ability to swing, to flip their hips and then win on the edge and some pass rush. They can set the point on the run game, as an end. And, we can play those guys in multiple packages as well at other spots. So I think they're more similar than different, and it gives us maybe, you have one person. So that to me, that allows guys to be fresh. So now if a guy like those 2 guys, knowing that, hey, I really got a backup behind me, that, hey, we can keep those guys fresh and roll, that you can give the kind of effort we need to be a consistent team.
So in other words, that could be an instance where you have 2 guys splitting reps there,
Yeah,
for the most part.
that's true.
With all the experimentation on the defensive line, at what point in camp will you start, putting together combinations of guys to start in different packages and formations? At what point in camp will those things kind of take shape?
We've kind of already done that. I mean, we've kind of already, we've already done that from that standpoint. And really right now we're just trying to develop the depth in each package to try to keep the numbers down relative to how many plays you play. Obviously some guys are going to be better in other packages than others, but at the same time we're really just trying to develop, depth. I think those packages are kind of already in play, and we're just kind of building and letting them gain knowledge at those positions.
Obviously, we've heard, you hear a lot of, mostly of Jeffrey Simmons at that nose guard in the 3-4. Who else is kind of pushing for reps there, and what have you seen from those guys?
Well, when you start looking at James and you start looking at Braxton, I think those guys, and Jackson, I think when you look at those guys, they've all done a good job. They all bring something to the table. I think it's just a matter of just seeing where we are now, and as we move forward in the future, the number of guys that give us the best chance to play. And really when you look at it, from a down standpoint, are they a 2-down player, 3-down player? And if they're a 2-down player, what packages they need to be in and how they play. So I think it's a little bit more of that. But honestly, I think all the guys behind Jeffrey have done a solid job and have shown flashes of things that you like. But I think we do got to continue to improve those guys to give us some flexibility and some depth, that there's not a drop off when, say, Jeffrey's not in there or another guy. I think it's important that we find ways to roll our best guys inside.
Is Lee Autry in that mix too?
Yeah, Lee's at. We can actually play him at tackle too. So we'll just kind of develop those guys.
How much progression have you seen out of Kobe Jones? Is he kind of?
Yeah, Kobe's another guy at the end that's done a good job for us. He's a high energy guy. He works hard. He brings an edge to him when he plays. Certainly continue to work and develop him, and going to let him compete for playing time. And he understands that challenge, and I've been pleased with his performance. And certainly, as a person, we like him, and glad he's in our program. We just got to continue to work and develop him and let him compete, for playing time.